Welcome to the paper Vocabulary Control. Today we would be dealing with the title Thesauri. An indexing system is based upon two fundamentally but interdependent kinds of relations between the concepts syntactical relation and semantic relation. The syntactic relationships are built through a set of rules and by using a variety of relational operators. The semantic relationship could be successfully controlled by a thesaurus. In this regard, the size of the vocabulary and devices for vocabulary control complete one-to-one relationship between the concepts and terms should be considered, and these are established in the thesaurus. So, a thesaurus is an indispensable tool for any indexing system. The word thesaurus comes from the Greek word thesauros, which means a storehouse or treasury of words. The Oxford English Dictionary defined thesaurus as an archaeological term, which means a treasury of words and chords, and its use was started in 1736 as a treasury or storehouse of knowledge, like the dictionary or encyclopedia. According to Webster's dictionary, it is a book of words or of information about a particular field or set of concepts, especially a dictionary of synonyms. A dictionary lists broad words along with their meanings, synonyms, etc. in alphabetical order, but a thesaurus assembles all words related to an idea at one place. The International Standards Organization defines thesaurus on the basis of its structure and function. In terms of functions, it states a thesaurus is a terminological control device used in translating from the natural language of documents, indexers or users into a more constrained system language or documentation language or information language. In terms of structure, a thesaurus is a controlled and dynamic vocabulary of semantically and generically related terms which covers a specific domain of knowledge. A thesaurus may be defined as a compilation of descriptors for use in an information retrieval system arranged in a systematic order and manifesting various types of relationships existing between the descriptors. A thesaurus is a controlled vocabulary arranged in a non-order or structured order so that equivalence, homographic, hierarchical and associative relationships among terms are displayed clearly and identified by standardized relationship indicators that are employed reciprocally. Historical development of the thesaurus. Modern usage may be said to date from 1852, when Peter Mark Roget published the first edition of the Thesaurus of English words and phrases. Roget thought of his thesaurus as a classification of ideas. The subtitle reads, "Classed and arranged so as to facilitate the expression of ideas and to assist in literary composition." This is very much helpful to the writers and translators to choose their preferred word. Roget's thesaurus had nothing to do with the information retrieval, but his novel idea was later profitably employed in compilation of information retrieval thesauri. By the mid-1900s, thesaurus had been taken over by information specialists, librarians, indexers or system analysts to denote a list of descriptors or indexing terms. According to Vickery, Helen Rawson was the first to use the thesaurus in information retrieval. It was actually in a paper presented at Docking Conference on Classification in 1937, and H.P. Loon was probably the first person to think in terms of information retrieval thesaurus, who suggested the compilation of families of notions and dictionary of notional families for indexing purposes. The first thesaurus used in information retrieval system was developed by DuPont in USA around 1969, and since then many thesauri have been brought out in various subject fields. As these have been compiled for information retrieval purposes, these are called information retrieval thesauri. Now, the next is functions of the thesaurus. A thesaurus is a terminological control device which improves the efficiency of information retrieval system, whether manual or mechanized. This helps the system for its success by supplying the appropriate terms from its articulate vocabulary, free from synonym and homonyms, both at the indexing and the searching stage. Its main functions are: A. It exercises control on the vocabulary of terms used in an indexing language. B. It shows the intrinsic semantic relationships existing between the terms. C. It helps the indexer in the choice of preferred terms. D. If the hierarchical and other relations are well displayed and synonyms are brought together, the searcher will be easily led from broad search terms to more appropriate specific terms. Alternatively, a search may be broadened by using hierarchies and related terms. E. The speed of retrieval increases by use of indexing terms and search terms from a thesaurus. It provides as an indispensable link between the vocabularies used by the indexer and users. And the last one, F. It helps in obtaining high recall ratio and high precision ratio in information search. Internal structure. According to UN ISIST guidelines, the internal form of individual entries and the arrangement of various entries in relation to one another constitute the structure of a thesaurus. Cross references make explicit the ways in which entries relate to each other in a network of concepts. Each entry in a thesaurus consists of a pack of terms led by a descriptor, which is followed by the terms which are related to the different ways. The different terms in the entry are displayed in the following format. Descriptor with scope note whenever needed. Synonyms and quasi-synonyms, displaying equivalence relationship. Broader terms, displaying hierarchical superordinate relationship. Narrower terms, displaying hierarchical subordinate relationship. Related terms, displaying associative relationship. Top term, displaying the broadest class to which the descriptors belong. Top term is usually not repeated when all the descriptors belong to the same broad class. Descriptors. The descriptors are the terms permitted by a thesaurus for use in the indexing. The terms that are not permitted are called non-preferred terms, which display the equivalence relationship with a descriptor. The descriptors can be divided into two types. 1. Terms denoting concept or concept combination. Example, television, television camera. 2. Terms denoting individual entities like proper names or identifiers. Example, ECTV. Relationship between terms. The interrelationships between the terms in a thesaurus are brought out by two basic types of relationships: hierarchical relationship and non-hierarchical relationship. One of the most important functions of a thesaurus is to show how the concepts are related. Hierarchical relationship. Hierarchical relationship indicates the interrelationship between concepts in a hierarchy. It expresses degrees or levels of superordination and subordination of concepts. This relationship covers three logically different and mutually exclusive situations. A. Genus species or generic relationship. B. Hierarchical whole part relationship. C. Intense relationship. A. Genus species or generic relationship. This relationship identifies the link between a class or category and its members or species. The following diagram can represent this particular relational link: desert plants, birds, cactus, robin. The generic nature of a relationship may be identified by the BT-NT coding. Whole or part relationship. This relationship in which one concept is inherently included in another regardless of context, so that the descriptors can be organized into logical hierarchies, with the whole treated as a broader term. In the following examples, parts are indicated through indentation. 1. Systems and organs of the body. Examples: nervous system, central nervous system, brain, spinal cord. 2. Disciplines or field of discourse. Example: science, biology, botany. C. Indents relationship. This relationship identifies the link between a general category of things or events expressed by a common noun and an individual instance of that category, often a proper name. Example: mountain regions, class, state capital, etc. Indents relationship is often not shown in a thesaurus to control its size, and some experts do not consider whole part relationship as hierarchical relationship. D. Polyhierarchical relationships. Some concepts on logical grounds may belong to more than one hierarchy. Such relationship is called polyhierarchical relationship. Examples: musical instruments, stringed instruments and percussion instruments, pianos. Bones, head, skull. The link between bones and skull is based upon the generic relationship. The skull is a kind of bone, whereas the link between head and skull is based on the hierarchical whole part relationship. The skull is a part of the head. Non-hierarchical relationship. When two terms are related other than hierarchical, the relationship may be called non-hierarchical relationship. This relationship may be further grouped as A. Equivalent relationship and B. Associative or affinity relationship. A. Equivalence relationship. It is the relationship between terms which are same or almost same in meaning, synonyms or quasi-synonyms, or in some cases opposite in meaning, antonyms. When the same concept can be expressed by two or more terms, one of these is selected as the preferred term, that is descriptor. The relationship between preferred and non-preferred terms is an equivalent relationship in which each term is regarded as referring to the same concept. The descriptor in effect substitutes for other terms expressing equivalent or nearly equivalent concepts. A cross reference to the descriptor should be made from any synonym or quasi-synonym that may function as an entry term for the user. Reciprocity of the equivalence relationship is expressed by the following conventions: use when leads from a non-preferred term to the descriptor, and UF or used for the reciprocal which records entry term leading to the descriptor. Example: as use birds, outline use shape, bird UF as, shape UF outline. B. Associative relationship. It covers association between descriptors that are neither hierarchical nor equivalent. There are a variety of such relationship, but the associative relationship should only be established if it is assumed that this relationship will be required in retrieval. In this relationship, the terms are semantically or conceptually associated to such an extent that link between them should be made explicit in the thesaurus. On the grounds, it may suggest additional descriptors for use in indexing or retrieval. The relationship is symmetrical and is generally indicated by the abbreviation RT in brackets related terms. Example: cells, cytology, RT, RT, cytology, cells. There are two types of associative relationship. 1. The terms belonging to the same hierarchy. Example: motorcycle, bicycle. Second one is terms belong to different hierarchy. Example: buildings and doors. Reciprocal entries. Reciprocal entries should appear for each term in a thesaurus whenever a relationship, whether hierarchical or non-hierarchical, is established between two terms. Display of relation. The relationships between terms are displayed in a thesaurus in the following ways: A. By prefixing abbreviations, B. By prefixing symbols, C. By graphic method using lines, arrows, circles, etc. Abbreviations recommend in UNISIST guidelines. BT means broader term, NT means narrower term, RT means related term, SN means scope not, TT top term, UF used for. The following term is a non-preferred synonym or quasi-synonym. Use. The following term is the preferred term when a choice between synonyms and quasi-synonyms exist. Symbols recommended by ISO. Is equal to means precedes the preferred term, not equal to means precedes the non-preferred term, greater than means to precede a broader term, less than means to precede a narrower term, minus means to precede a related term. Methodology of compilation. The compilation of a thesaurus is a highly technical job which requires a fair knowledge of the structure of the subject to be covered, as well as the familiarity with the methodology of compilation. Several internationally known and used manuals like Guidelines of ISO, BSI, UNESCO, or the manual compiled by Atkinson and Gilchrist are now available for this purpose. Study of some standard and representative books and discussions with one or two subject experts may be helpful for guiding knowledge of the structure of the subject. Essential steps. The essential steps in the construction of a thesaurus may be summarized as follows: 1. User studies. 2. Study of the subject. 1. Definition of the subject field. The scope of the subject to be covered in a thesaurus is to be first defined clearly. The scope must be coexistent with that of the IR system for which the thesaurus is being compiled. Second one, division of the subject field into facets. With the help of the represented books on the subject and of the subject experts, the main facets of the subject are to be identified so as to ensure that no important area of the subject is left out at the time of term collection. Existing classification schemes may be helpful in this work. 3. Collection of terms. Before starting term collection work, various sources may be identified from which terms can be collected. These sources may include ready reference tools like encyclopedias, dictionaries, glossaries, etc. Representative books on the subject, available classification schemes, and thesauri, primary and secondary periodicals, etc. For each of such sources, an entry is to be prepared in a standard format listing all the bibliographical details of the document. In collecting the relevant terms for the thesaurus, each of the sources on a particular subject may be scanned exhaustively. 4. Selection of terms. The collected terms are evaluated on the basis of the following criteria. 1. Frequency of use of the term in a literature of the subject. 2. Authenticity and currency of the term. 3. Acceptability of the users, experts for communication. 4. Potentiality of use. 5th. Effectiveness and expediency of the term in connecting and denoting a particular concept. On the basis of evaluation, the descriptors, that is, the preferred terms denoting concepts and non-preferred terms or synonyms or quasi-synonyms of descriptors, have been selected for inclusion in the thesaurus. 5. Control of word forms. 6. Recording of terms. A term profile, otherwise called as TP, should be prepared for each of the terms selected in a specially designed term record card. An example of simple term record is shown below. Term, context, characteristics by selection procedure, definition or scope note, practice of a person seeking a mate outside the group, broader terms, narrower terms, related terms. Source. It may not be possible to note down all the information required in term record at this stage. The broader terms and narrower terms cannot be supplied till the hierarchy of the terms is established. 7. Organization of the terms. 1. Determination of relation. The task of determination of interrelationship between the terms is the most significant one and should be done very cautiously. Either deductive or inductive process used in classification may be adopted for determining the hierarchical relationship. At this stage, help may be taken from the existing classification schemes and thesauri and the subject experts. Graphical representation. A graphic display or a hierarchical tree of the total structure of the subject covering all the descriptors can be developed. After determining all the relationships, this should be noted down in the appropriate places of the term records. 8. Preparation of entries. An entry should now be prepared for each descriptor in previously determined format using necessary abbreviations or symbols. For each non-preferred term, a cross-reference entry should be prepared in a predetermined format. Some definite rules and standards should be followed regarding the word forms and spelling of terms. The descriptors or preferred terms and non-preferred terms may be differentiated typographically. 9. Arrangement and presentation. A thesaurus consists of a main part and one or more auxiliary parts. If the main part is alphabetical, all the entries for descriptors and non-preferred terms are arranged in an alphabetical sequence following some standard practice of alphabetization. When the main part is classified or systematic one, the terms are arranged in their hierarchical order with levels of hierarchy represented by the intensions. Dots or dashes, scope notes, synonyms and related terms are added whenever necessary. In graphic display, the terms are arranged either in a tree structure or a diagram using lines, circles, arrows, etc., which clearly indicate the interrelationship between the terms. The main part may be arranged by any of the methods mentioned above, while the auxiliary parts or parts of words by any of the other two methods or by the both. Editing. The draft of the main part and the auxiliary parts should be checked and tested on the following points: A. Word forms and spellings. B. Reciprocal entries. C. Arrangement and layout. D. Link between the main part and the auxiliary part. All mistakes detected should be corrected. An explanatory introduction explaining the scope, structure and the arrangement of the thesaurus and a guide to the usage should be prepared and prefixed to the thesaurus. Finally, necessary instructions should be added to the printing. Updating thesaurus. Being a terminological control device, needs continuous revision at regular intervals as new terms crop up in the field with the development of the subject. The updating of a thesaurus should be done keeping in view of the developments in the subject field covered by it and readers' queries. Conclusion. The activities relating to storing, manipulating and maintaining the terms in a thesaurus can be efficiently performed by computers. Evaluation of a thesaurus is necessary to find out the lacuna, if any, and to take remedial measures. The acid test for any thesaurus is whether the terms are sufficiently specific to adequately represent the subject matter of documents and requests, and how helpful the thesaurus is in suggesting all terms needed to adequately perform a particular search. Summary. In this unit, we have tried to explain the thesaurus as a terminological control device which improve the efficiency of information retrieval system, whether manual or mechanized. It describes how a thesaurus can be used in controlling the vocabulary of terms used in an indexing language. It also shows the intrinsic semantic relationships existing between the terms. It helps the indexer in the choice of preferred terms. It describes the UN-ISIST guidelines according to which the internal form of individual entries and the arrangement of various entries in relation to one another. Various types of relationship between the terms that constitute the structure of a thesaurus. It also explains the methodology of compilation of a thesaurus and the essential steps in the construction of a thesaurus. Assignment. 1. Prepare a list of the thesauri on a particular subject available in the market, and it must contain at least the name of 20 thesaurus on that particular subject. 2. Prepare a thesaurus on a particular subject and mention the methodology of preparation and show the relationship. 3. Briefly explain the guidelines of ISO and UNESCO to prepare the thesaurus. 4. Discuss the historical development of English language thesaurus in detail. 5. Discuss the use of cross-reference in Roger's thesaurus of English words and phrases. References: Atkinson, J. and Gilchrist. A Thesaurus Construction, a Practical Manual. London, Asflip, 1972. 2. Foskett, A.B. The Subject Approach to Information. 4th edition, London, Clive Bingley, 1992. 3. Chakravarti, A.R. and Chakravarti, B.C. Indexing, Calcutta, World Press, 1984. Here we conclude this session. In the next class, we will discuss another topic. Till then, bye.